And by the way, even the Islamists, you know the difference between the old Islamist and the new Islamist is not very much about accepting democracy. It's one of the points. But it's also about accepting global economic order. They are Islamist and neo-capitalist at the same time. So welcome to the world. Welcome to the world. They are going to be accepted. They are not resisting. No alternative. They are ready to deal with the World Bank, with the IMF, and they are quiet about this. This is the reality of it. And we have to face it as it is. Do we have something to propose as something which is an alternative, positive and constructive? The point for me that the ulama al-waqa, the scholars in different fields, they shouldn't be only Muslims. And this is why, for example, the first meeting that we have on bioethics, we are coming with the two main, they call themselves secular scholars on bioethics. I want them to challenge the Muslim scholars and say, what is our position, for example, the 4 principles that we have in secular terms in bioethics. I want the Muslims to respond to this. I want this contribution to be positive, not clashing. It's to take from them, because when someone is telling you autonomy is the first, beneficence, non-maleficence, and justice are the 4 principles coming in bioethics from the secular minds, what is coming from the Muslims? And in which way we can take from this when someone is telling you autonomy is critical, because we know in Islam how much autonomy is important, but we need a constructive discussion, not only with Muslims, but also with scholars who are at the highest level, because knowledge in medical science has no religion. Knowledge is knowledge, and we take it as it is. And this is the way we go beyond our adaptative process. This is the way I think that we have to work. For example, in medicine, it's good what we are doing. We should push more education. It's important on environment. Where is the Muslim contribution to global warming? What are we, while you come to the scriptures, when you come to the essence of Islam, and you say how much we should care about the universe, how much we should care about nature, it's not part of us. And you say to the scholars, why don't you talk about these secondary issues? We have other problems first. I'm sorry, it's critical if you know the world today. And you cannot talk about environment if you don't talk about economy. So now we have to connect economy and environment, because it's clear that it's connected here. So the question of men and women. And by the way, I don't buy anything which is said coming from the West. You Muslims, you have to talk only about women. You have a problem with women. It's true that we Muslims have a problem with women. That's clear. But the point is that it's deeper than that. We have a problem with men and women. We have a problem in the way we deal with family. We have a problem with when we deal with authority and the way we deal with the difference between an idealized discourse and the realities on the ground. Wherever I go, I came here, I was in Singapore yesterday, I am in the West, in Muslim majority countries, it's always the same. People from within the community telling us how much is difficult for them to build a family, to be and to feel good in this community. Let us talk about this and not say, oh, what are the women's rights, but also going to the deep questions of how do we deal with men and women. And there is a crisis with women now finding their place in the traditional, from the traditional to the modern society. It's very difficult. Don't avoid this question. We need to talk about this. And this is something which is also studied in the West in a very interesting way about the absent father, for example. And the absent father is not the father who is not here. It's the father who is here only to say no. Only to come to be the limit. It's a negative authority. Not going alone education, but being there just to be the limit of some behavior, which is not what is the way the Prophet, peace be upon him, was teaching us. On media, it was said here also, media, it's a very important field, and governance. When you listen to what is coming from Muslim majority countries, then the Middle East, MENA, African countries, about, civil society with Islamic reference, and we have Hizb al-Tahrir saying we have to come back to the caliphate. What are the principles of good governance for us? And it has to do with, we have to be courageous. We have to be courageous even here. The first condition of good governance is the courage of the citizens. facing what is not done by, we can teach the world about, democracy, but when there is no transparency, when people are in jail being innocent, where there is torture, this is not going to work. So we have to start with talking about this and the principles of good governance. Now, my conclusion with all this, you see that if you understand what I mean, you understand the radicality. It's not only something which has to do with the structure, no, it's questioning the methodology, questioning the mindset, questioning the vision, questioning the methodology, questioning the structure, questioning the authority, and how we have to deal with authority, and to come to, for us here in this room. Why am I coming here to give a lecture? Not just to please you for one hour. It's a call for something which is to liberate our minds and an intellectual revolution. Is to understand how much every one of us here could and should be involved in the whole process, with having confidence in our principles, a vision as to our mission, and a contribution to our partnerships with humanity. We should be وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. If we follow the Prophet ﷺ, we are a mercy, and we should be a mercy for the world. Not only someone who is a liability or misunderstood. A contribution, it's important. It means that we have to be involved. And remember something which is essential in our liberation, is the marriage of two attitudes, apparently opposed and fundamentally necessary together. The first is humility. Humility means exactly la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Power and strength is coming from God. I do what I can, but humility, it's important. Humility means I'm going what I can, what I can't, I cannot do it. This is one, but it's also, you know why we have people coming from other faiths? Because they are helping us to be better ourselves. Lita'arafu means take from others. Humility means it's not because you believe in the truth that the truth is your monopoly, it's your property. You can take, and you should, intellectual humility is listen to what the people are saying. So for example, any Islamic bookshops that have only books written by Muslim, published by Muslim, read by Muslim, are not doing the job. You need to read books, and you need to be open to the world. An open mind is the way you are humble. You take from others. You take from other civilization, other traditions. And please don't get me wrong, it's not only the West. What do you know about the Chinese tradition? What do you know about the Buddhist tradition? And I can tell you that even if they don't believe in God and we don't agree with this, there are things coming from the Buddhist tradition, from the Hindu tradition, from the atheist tradition, from the secular tradition that are helping you to be better Muslims. If only you read with humility. You take what is good. Read and discuss and listen. Intellectual humility, but there is another side of it, is to be ambitious. Ambitious means I can't do it alone, but I should try. I should be ambitious. This is the meaning of La hawla atawakkalu ala Allah is humility. Bismillah is ambition. Bismillah means if He wants, it's going to happen. Atawakkalu ala Allah, what I can do, I will stop there. So at-tawakkul wa Bismillah. So starting with God and relying on Him. This is something which is coming from our faith, but it means, translated in human terms, that the people should see in us people who are ready to learn and ready to contribute. So it's not a discourse that you have to take beyond your minds and hearts. It's something that has to be imbibed. It has to colonize and be part of the way you look at the world and the way you look at your mission. Wallahu a'lam wa a'la wa ahkam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much to Brother Tariq Ramadan for sharing with us a rather profound and in-depth account of what rethinking Islamic reform should mean for us as Muslims facing the challenges of the 21st century. One key distinction that should be noted is that between accommodating and transformation. Accommodating is something Muslims have clearly demonstrated that they can do, just to basically imitate any external changes in society that they find. But the challenge lies in transforming our inner self, our relationship to faith, and at the same time, society, so that we can reach a higher and more just state of living with others. We have time for questions and answers.
System, you did mention about power and authority. So would you please explain further about power and authority? What is the role that both of these things play? What's the role? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, just a explanation for this in Islam which says that it's your nafs which is making you a homosexual, but then again it's being couched in these terms that it's a challenge that you need to overcome. And when you have that kind of conception that your religion is marginalizing you, it's then very difficult to develop your spirituality and believe in this God who is all merciful and all just. So how would you approach something like that?
So the two first questions about can rationality can change Islam, or is permitted for rationality to change Islam. This is why I started my talk by saying the texts should be taken seriously. So when I'm saying that the texts should be taken seriously, I mean that the texts are revealed, and what is in the text, which is, for example, clear-cut as to the 6 pillars of faith, the 5 pillars of practice. This is, if you are a believer, if you believe in the text, this is where you have a limit for rationality to try to understand or to try to undermine. This is what we have in the Quran. Is we have things that are clear-cut coming from the Quran, and rationality should take them as they are, meaning that this is the limit. Sami'na wa ata'na, we have heard and we obey. But these fields are very narrow but essential. Essential because they are defining what Islam is all about. So if we believe in the 6 pillars of faith, that, for example, one of the pillars of faith is to believe that there is one God, to believe that there are messengers, that they believe that this book is the final book and it's the very word of God. So this is where rationality is limited in its criticism, because we believe in what the book is saying. When it comes to the 5 pillars of Islam, you can't, in the name of rationality, say, yes, starting tomorrow, I will only pray 5 times a day. Because our religion, the revelation is telling us 5 times a day and not 3 times a day. So this is where your rationality should respect what the text is saying. Now, when it comes to prohibition and when it comes to duties, once again, you can't, in the name of rationality, start to say, alcohol was prohibited in the Arab world because of, the sun, and it has an impact, so now we live in Malaysia, let us say that alcohol is halal. This is a wrong way to use rationality. Rationality in this field is the power of rationality when it comes to faith is to accept the limits of rationality. What Blaise Pascal, the French philosopher, was saying, that power of rationality is also to acknowledge the limits of rationality. You cannot explain everything in rationality. You can explain how things are working, not why. So from an Islamic viewpoint, there are limits to rationality, but the limits to rationality, this doesn't mean that you can't question in a rational way things that are said. And the point is that not everything in the Quran is under the authority of rationality, but nothing in the Quran is irrational. You understand my point? Irrational means that my reason cannot understand it because it's far from the being logic. I can understand what I am doing it, even though I don't understand how 5 times a day, why 5 times a day, how it should be done like this. So it's never against our rationality, even though it's not under the authority of rationality. Now, when it comes to human rights and religion first, what the tradition is always to say that, of course, protecting your religion is coming first from a believer's viewpoint, that you have to protect your religion because it's the essence of your life. But I wouldn't say that we should put one first and put the other as secondary. Because in all the philosophy of human rights, it's clear that part of the human rights is freedom of worship, freedom of conscience. It's part of what is understood as the dignity of human being. And as Muslims, sometimes when it comes to a specific situation with life, we don't ask the religion of the people. A medical doctor, when he has someone coming to be treated, he doesn't ask, or she doesn't ask him or her, his or her religion. You are sick. My duty as a human being, even as a believer, is to cure and to look after you. This is not disputable. The poor is exactly the same. We are not choosing between good poor and bad poor people. The poor is the poor and has no religion. And this is something which we have to reconcile ourselves from an Islamic viewpoint. So this opposition between a deen and human rights, we'll see that our way of defending deen is in fact a way of celebrating human rights and the human dignity, and the way we are tackling human rights, it's also a way to protect our deen, our religion. So, except if you have one specific example where you go to protect human rights, and it means that you are going to be against the deen. But, and this comes from, I will come to the third question before, the fourth question before going to the third one. When this is an example, when you have people who can tell you, in the name of my human rights, homosexuality is part of me, you have to accept it, and others are saying, no, in the name of religion I can't. But it's part of the human rights also to let the people think what they think. It's freedom of conscience. Now it should be clear that from an Islamic viewpoint, and this is shared, the Dalai Lama said it, the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims are repeating that according to their religion, the divine project, homosexuality is not permitted. So this is a belief that the Muslims with others are saying homosexuality is prohibited in Islam. Now people are coming and say, yes, but it's natural, it's coming from some are trying and they fail to prove this, that it's coming from the gene and that it's natural. It could come from different reasons. And it's not good to try just to find the reasons that could make or prove someone wrong in his philosophy, on his religion. I don't think it's the right answer. But there is an attitude, an intellectual attitude for me, which is very important to start with. To be able to say that homosexuality is not accepted by Islam, is prohibited by Islam, is the starting point of our belief. It's not to, in the name of openness, to accept everything. And once again, even the first psychoanalyst, Freud was perceiving it as a perversion. So that's fine. I don't want to come with now, it's not a discussion only on the moral judgment. It's just to say it's a prohibition. But to be able also, from where we are as Muslims, to say, I don't agree, I did not accept with my philosophy of life, my religion, homosexuality. But I make a difference between what you are doing and who you are. I respect who you are, I disagree with what you do. So it's a position of principle where it's clear that as a Muslim I'm not going to show that I'm open by saying I accept everything. No, what I understood from the divine project is that it's not the way. Now, how someone is, and I am in touch with Muslims who are experiencing this. Some are suffering, and some others are just acknowledging that it's there, and they are seeking advice and trying to be in touch. I think first that we don't have to cut ourselves from their experience. It's not for us to judge. Some, they feel that they have to struggle to overcome this. Some others, they think I cannot do without it, so they are trying to find a way. But my position is to repeat clearly what Islam is and what the way we have to deal with human beings. So we judge the actions. We are not judging the people one and for all. It's not in our power. So this is why I'm saying respecting the being without agreeing with what is done. And I think that with the people that I have met, and some of them are Muslims and others from other faiths and others are not believers, they understand this position because it's a clear position. It's a clear position when you say, this is what I believe and this is the way I want to deal with you out of respect without accepting or agreeing with what you do. But now to come and to say, beyond the fiqh, what we should do is to go as far as to understand that this is natural. So as it is natural, we have to integrate it. This is disputable. This is the way where I won't go because I don't think, in fact, deeply that it's as natural as we are saying within our society. I think that there are trends, there are realities that we can study and try to understand how it could come to reality and how it could, in fact, for some people, they can be born with a sense that this is me, I'm like this. So having said that, it's not because it's coming with your nature that it has to be accepted as part of the nature. Many things are coming to me with my nature, and I also have to think about them, how I can deal with them, how I should deal with them in one way or in another. Nature is not the reference of spirituality. It's not. We start with it, but we try to think about how we master this. So this is what I'm saying in between the people are saying in the name of human rights you should accept. I say, no, human rights are not telling me, are not imposing onto me to accept with my mind things that are not in my philosophy of life, in my religion. It is saying exactly the opposite. You can believe in what you believe, but you can't, in the name of what you believe, oppress the people. So what you do, if you do it in your life, it's your business, but don't ask me to respect what you do if it's against my conscience, while I respect who you are as a human being. This, I think, it's a clear position, not easy, because you are dealing with people who, beyond this, are sometimes perceiving the way the Muslims are dealing with them or what is happening within our societies in a very tough reality of condemnation of everything. But I think that this is where we should clarify our position, but I wouldn't in any way undermine or the principles that are the principles of Islam and that are shared by other religions in this very specific field. Wallahu a'lam. About power and authority, when I was saying and what I was trying to say in the articulation, you know, very often power is the state where you have this power. Authority is the institutionalized reality of this power. So you have an institutionalized power when you have such an authority. So what we have is in a situation of authority for the ulama, the scholars of the text, they are expressing a power over the consciences of the Muslims, wherever they are, which is exactly the same for the church in the Christian tradition, the Catholic tradition, and in a different way in the Protestant tradition. So the point that I was making here is to understand which kind of authority is translated and experienced, and which kind of power. And sometimes you can have institutionalized power without authority, and you can have institutionalized authority without power. And this was my take, for example, on what is happening these days in Egypt, where my take on what the president has today is a symbolic institutionalized authority without power, because the army is still keeping the essential. Now, a very good point about what I was saying, and it helps me to clarify what I was trying to say. I'm clear on the fact that if we rely on fiqh, there is halal and there is haram. I'm not saying that we should not rely on this. إِنَّ الْحَلَالَ بَيِّنٌ وَإِنَّ الْحَرَامَ بَيِّنٌ. There is halal and there is haram. My answer to homosexuality is to say that there are limits, and we have to be clear on this. Now, having said this, about, you know, pork and alcohol, it's clear. Stealing, it's clear. Cheating is clear. We are not playing with al-halal wal-haram. I'm not saying that we have to dismiss al-halal al-haram. What I'm saying is this overemphasis on rules over meanings is the problem. So when I'm saying I want to deal with the methodology, I want to bring people who are able in sciences to keep the meaning in the discussion and not only the obsession of rules to be issued in order to protect, if you understand my point. So it's really the methodology, is the objectives, but not at all to undermine or to underestimate the reality of what is halal and what is haram. And this is where some of the people who are following, or they are saying or repeating, we are following Tariq Ramadan, sometimes when I listen to what they say, I don't find myself in anything that they are saying. Really, it's another, this is reforming my thought in a way which is not at all what I'm saying. In a way, no, I'm not saying this. I'm quite serious, and I want to be serious with the text, but not with this obsession, not with what you were saying, in fact, referring to the psychological factor, which is when you feel that you are under threat, you deal with law. And let me tell you something about this, just to give you an example, which is not coming from us, but coming from us within the Muslim community. We are living in the West, and as it was said, I'm a Muslim, a European Muslim, a Western Muslim. And I don't have a problem with this. My culture is a Western culture. My first reference was the French literature. I am a Swiss by nationality, and anyone who is trying to undermine my Islam because I'm coming from the West, I will challenge him. You know, I'm challenging the people who are trying to make me feel that you are more a Muslim when you are Egyptian or Saudi, and you are feeling the same sometimes, the people who have the impression that because you are coming from South Asian countries, Malaysia is not really an Arab country, so you better learn from the Arabs. You know all this kind of cultural competition. No way, I'm not going to give up on this. I'm a Western Muslim. And now I'm saying in the West, I'm repeating this everywhere, we abide by the law of the country, and we are Swiss citizen, French citizen, British citizen, and we are from the country, and we are Muslims, no problem. Islam is a Swiss religion, is a French religion, is a British religion. Islam is a Western religion now. We have millions. And you can see that as we are perceived as a threat by some people, the populists, on what are they stressing? Always on the law. They come and they say, here are the laws that you have to respect. So the first attitude of a civilization and a society that feels that it is under threat is to really come back to the law and to say, these are our laws. This is exactly what we find with Muslims. They do the same, and the people around us, they come with the law. And then we keep on repeating, we don't have a problem with the law. The problem is not the law, the problem is that how the law are implemented. It's unjust the way you are implementing the law. And then you understand that the law is the protective dimension. When you trust yourself, the laws are helping you to welcome people. When you are threatened by the others, the law are helping you to protect yourself from the other. It depends on your psychological status. Confident, welcome. On the defensive, be careful. So the law are played in both. So that once again, the problem is not the articles of law. The problem is not the laws themselves, is who is reading them and in which way they are read.